When it comes to collecting for the Alien franchise, I have zero boundaries. I mean, obviously, as soon as I heard that the Xenomorph popcorn bucket was available at Cinemark, I went on my lunch break to snag one of those to make sure it was secured for my collection. And over the years, I've definitely come across some pretty quirky, uncommon, and oddball type collectibles for this franchise. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about a few of those things. And these are really pieces of merch that come from around 92 to 96, so the mid-90s. And I just think they're altogether different. They're not your typical action figure or movie book or special edition VHS box set. These things are just kind of quite different. And so I'm really excited to share these with you. And please, if you have any additional information on some of this stuff, I would love to know, because a few of these things are kind of shrouded in mystery. So without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at some more of my uncommon, quirky, oddball Alien merchandise. This first thing we're going to look at is a keychain, and it's not altogether that quirky, a keychain. They've released keychains for just about every movie or cartoon or video game, but this one's unique because it was released in Japan in 1997, I believe, and to my knowledge, there wasn't anything like this released in the States in that time frame. They may have come out with some stuff later, and of course with 3D printing, I'm sure you could make a custom one, but I found this at a convention. I thought it was really neat because I'd never seen one, and I have not seen one since, so I'm really glad I picked it up. I do love the packaging on it. I've always wanted that huge poster that they released, I think in 1986 or 87, coinciding with Aliens. It looks like it's bursting through your door. Really neat little item there, and just something different since it came from Japan. I just don't see a lot of these, so you gotta have you a Xenomorph head keychain in your collection. Ah yes, the Aliens inflatable bot bag. This thing stands 48 inches tall, and it's got the Xenomorph Queen painted right on the side. Again, this is something I found at a convention. I've not seen another one. I've seen them pop up on eBay from time to time. The box is definitely worse for the wear, and shame on me for not having inflated it and opening it up. I just haven't. I'm afraid that I'm gonna destroy it or ruin it or something. This is by Kids Creation, and I gotta tell you, if I was a kid whenever I found this, I definitely would have had it up in my room on display. So maybe one day I'll get the courage to see if it actually inflates. You know, it's been in this box for many, many, many years, and I just think it's funny that they released an inflatable punching bag with a Xenomorph on it. I don't think that's the best way to take out a Xenomorph, but especially a Queen. But maybe they thought it would work well with some Nerf guns as a target practice. So for that, I give them credit for thinking outside the box. Being that I'm such a huge fan of what Kenner did in the early 90s with the Aliens toy line, one of my most favorite pieces that I have in my collection is actual market research done by a former Kenner employee. And basically this report is trying to validate whether or not it's worth bringing an Aliens toy line to market. I was so happy to come across this. I'm so proud to have it in my collection because it's such an interesting part of toy history and means a whole hell of a lot to me, being that this is my favorite toy line of all time. I do plan on, in the future, doing a deep dive over this entire document. I just got to figure out how I want to navigate through it. It's a lot of information to unpack. There's some really cool pictures, so definitely look forward to that. I don't know when I'll do it, but hopefully sooner rather than later. But there is one bit of data that I wanted to pull from this report that has to do with the debate on whether or not there was going to be a cartoon that released alongside of the Kenner's toy line. And I really feel what this does is confirm kind of what we already know in a sense. So Kenner floated the idea of a potential cartoon to Fox, and Fox turned it down. And so I believe that Kenner probably came up with the name Operations Aliens as a potential name for a cartoon. And what happened is the animation cells that we see floating around the internet, those were going to be used for commercials to help promote the toy line. And the name Operations Aliens, like I said, could have been for the potential cartoon if Fox would have sort of greenlit it. And so they started to use Operations Aliens as sort of a brand, a marketing brand to help promote this toy line, because in this same document, it does say that only 30% of the kids surveyed had actually seen Aliens, but there was a massive interest in the toy line. So Kenner probably felt, hey, we've got the movie coming up in 1992. There's mentions of that inside this document. What better way to help bring even more interest if we created a cartoon? But Fox turned it down. The animation cells that were created were only for commercials that they didn't ever use, but the name Operations Aliens was created as a brand to help promote this line, and it ended up on several different pieces of merchandise, as we'll see here. I have the figure case, which dons the name Operations Aliens. I've also talked about this stationery kit that has Operations Aliens all over it. I gotta tell you, you'd be the coolest kid back to school in your math class if you busted out your Operations Aliens ruler with your Operations Aliens pencil to do your geometry. I didn't have that luxury. I found this much later, and I've kept it in the package just how it is, just how you'd find it on the store shelves. But there is one other item that I have in my collection that has the name Operations Aliens. That is the Plasma Foam Bath. I'm almost positive that this was a European release only, or if it was released here in the States, it was in very small quantities, because believe you me, I would have been all over this as a kid. And it's great. I mean, one, it's got the Operation Aliens branding on it, which I think is super cool. And elephant in the room, the gigantic Queen Xenomorph rubber head that sits on top of the bottle. Shame that the foam bath doesn't squeeze out of the Xenomorph's mouth. You have to take it off and unscrew it. But listen, this thing is in great shape, considering that it was probably something that would have been thrown away shortly after use, or at least the bottle would have been. You know, if I had this as a kid, I can't say I would have saved the bottle. I definitely would have saved the rubber attachment on top, the Queen Alien head. But this thing is just so quirky. I've only ever come across one. I've never seen another one. And I think that's large in part because it never made it to the Western market. It was never something that came out here in the States. But you've got the Operations Aliens name on there. You've got the Queen body dripping with plasma, acidy, hive secretion ooze. And of course this nice, fairly detailed and actually not a bad sculpt of the Queen head. So I love this thing, and it's a one-of-a-kind item, and I was glad to talk about it here on my video at 2 Day Rentals. Here's something that, again, I've only seen once and jumped on it as soon as I found it. It's the Color Blasters Stencil Set for Aliens, and this was released by Kenner to go with their Color Blaster toy, which is sort of this airbrush toy setup that you could use these stencils for on pieces of paper, on t-shirts, and this thing is just wacky. I didn't even know that they made stencils for the Color Blaster. I remember seeing the Color Blaster, but I had no idea that they made Aliens stencils for this. And so you have 6 stencils, I do believe. You've got the Xenomorph posed in a few different ways, a face hugger, the word face huggers. Interesting that they chose that as something for a stencil to put on a t-shirt or whatever. And aliens with some different designs. What's unfortunate is these stencils are cardboard. They're not the plastic, sort of sheets of plastic stencils that you would normally think of you would get in this set. They're just some thin pieces of cardboard. So though I appreciate the effort, it's a noble effort on their part, I definitely think they missed the mark as far as, one, not giving us plastic stencils, and two, you know, maybe face huggers is an odd choice. It would have been cool if they maybe had another Xenomorph design instead of just the word face huggers. But nonetheless, this is what we got. I don't think I'll ever use these, but I definitely will keep it in my collection as something very quirky and probably something very much so long forgotten. Hoxa is a brand that is from Argentina that Kenner allowed to release some things under their label, under their brand. They've done Terminator 2 figures. I've talked about one of those I have here before on my channel. One of the things that they did that was never released anywhere else besides the Argentinian market was this blaster gun. Kenner did have some plans to release some things along this line, a smart gun and a headset or a helmet with a communication device, much like we see in the film. Those never saw the light of day. I, however, don't feel that this stems from that. I think this is Hoxa taking either their own liberties and coming up with something completely different, or reusing a toy that they had released previously and just slapping the Aliens branding on it and trying to capitalize off the brand strength. But nonetheless, it was released, however that came to be, and I love the box. I love how much fun this kid is having with this toy. Again, it's got all the same sort of artwork and design that we've seen from Kenner and their other toys. They actually reused the Scorpion Alien artwork that we see on the Scorpion Alien figure for this. That makes sense since that figure explodes as one of its action features. So very interesting. The gun itself is rather quirky. Obviously nothing like we see in the movies, but I was really hoping it made the infamous pulse rifle sound. It does not. But it did come with a target, I guess, that you can set up for target practice. It's a shame that the target wasn't a xenomorph, it's just a bullseye, so it's kind of plain and boring in that regard. But, you know, I think maybe you could cosplay this as like maybe some sort of motion detector with defense capabilities. I don't really know. Like I said, it's a far stretch from anything we've seen in the movies, and vastly different from what Kenner had planned to release with their toy line, but something very unique within itself, something I've never seen since the first time I saw it, so I knew I had to pick it up because how often would I come across something like this? Who knows how many of these were ever actually released? They certainly never saw the light of day here in the States, so it's just one of those neat things to add to my Aliens collection. You know, that's really it as far as what I wanted to share today. I love these quirky things. They're just such a departure from your normal, everyday sort of collectibles, things that maybe most people have in their collection. I'm such a huge fan of these films that it's just hard for me not to soak up every bit of merch that I come across. So if any of my viewers, if you know anything more about these specifically or have some history with these, maybe you owned one of these as a kid, maybe you have one in your collection, I would certainly love to know. I would also like to know, are there any sort of movies or video games or toy lines that you collect obsessively for and you have to just sort of soak up every bit of merch that you find coinciding with that brand? I would love to know. I enjoy the conversation so very much with all my viewers, and thank you so much, all my returning viewers, for coming back and joining the conversation and watching all my content. It really means a lot. And if it's your first time here and you like what you've seen and it sort of strikes a chord with you, it would really mean a lot if you hit like, hit subscribe, and do me a favor, share with your friends or other people that you may know that are into this sort of thing. Again, it's a labor of love. It's a lifelong commitment collecting. You never know what you're going to come across. And, you know, celebrating the release of Alien Romulus in the month of August 2024, we're doing all Aliens content, and this was one I was really excited about. So thank you very much for tuning in. And, of course, it's like I always say at the end of my videos, let's be kind as we rewind and fast forward through time. Thank you so much for stopping by 2 Day Rentals.